Just text me. AJ, what's going on? Back for another week of UFC fight breakdowns, betting, maybe some DFS if you feel like talking about that. But how's it going?
Doing well, Steve. Glad to be doing this with you again. We got another card on our hands, the last card before Fight Island here. So it's exciting times and ready to get back right into it. DFS, all things UFC, just ready to dive right in again.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice the order of the fight card. I think it's Kay Hansen is the first fight up, right? Is that the order?
That is what I'm seeing on ESPN.com.
Okay. Perfect. So that's my one bet of the night. So I'm going to break this one down. Again, I'll give you plenty of chances to throw some bets out there or throw some analysis out there. But I already bet Kay Hansen. What did I get her at? I think it was like minus 130, 132, I think is what I hit her at. I got Kay Hansen. I also parlayed Kay Hansen with Mike Perry. So if anybody doesn't like that, tough. But I like Kay Hansen a lot here. I think that she's not the best striker in this matchup. This is definitely a striker versus grappler matchup, pretty obvious. But Kay in her Invicta fights, it basically just relentlessly goes for the takedown. Doesn't seem to slow down at all. Will string takedowns together, rinse and repeat for 3 rounds, and didn't get tired. So, I look at her opponent, and I'm probably going to say what's the first name? Jin Frey?
I believe it's pronounced Jin He is how the Invicta broadcast was saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jin Frey, she's an atom weight. So she's used to weighing in 10 pounds lighter. She's coming up this is her first fight, I believe, at 115. I didn't see anything else. And I just noticed right now, I'm looking at fight odds. Let me share my screen with everybody. But fight odds, she's now up to minus 165. So I guess I hit her at the right time. I got a good line on her, but I hit her at minus 132 and then minus 132 with Mike Perry, who again I got Mike Perry at minus 280. And what is he up to? He's over 300 now, right? I actually can't even see it on this thing. Let me go back to the thing. He's he's minus 290. So on fight odds, he's minus 290. So I just think that the grappling, she's going to win a decision. So I don't mind Kay Hansen at all. I don't even mind her at this price. I don't think she's going to give. I don't think she's going to give her a chance to strike at all. She's probably the better striker if it stays in her feet. I just don't think it's going to happen. AJ, anything to add? What do you think?
Agree with a lot of what you said. I like the thing you noted about atom weight versus straw weight. I would just add the only thing is Kay has actually fought at flyweight one time. So it was just one time, but noteworthy.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, and then also, like to your point, I do like the fact that she could go for multiple takedowns over the course of 15 minutes. It tells me her cardio is in check. Ginny is the woman who has been 5 rounds a few times, and they're both taking this fight on short notice. But even though Kay hasn't been 5 rounds, again, that wrestling, going for takedowns over the course of 15 minutes tells me that her cardio is at least adequate at the minimum. So, yeah, I like your point there, and it should be a fun fight. I like Kay to win as well. And there's also a significant age gap between these two women. So I would just say based off pure upside, yeah, Kay would have like the more upside based off. We just don't know what her ceiling is yet because she could get better based on her youth.
Yeah, they actually have Jin Ye. I forget what you said before. Frey. I'll call it Frey. They actually have Frey as the atom weight, number 3 worldwide atom weight. I'm actually surprised Kay Hansen with her style lost 3 fights, to be honest with you. I mean, again, she's so young, so she's fought these fights at 18, 19 years old. But she's 20. I think Frey is 35, I have written down. I just think Kay's going to be able to string those takedowns together and win 3 rounds. So I bet Kay straight up, but if you want to find inside the distance and get Kay decision, that's fine too. AJ, Jordan Griffin and Youssef Zalal. I haven't bet this yet, but I'm considering it. But talk me into or out of a bet. What do you think here?
This is a matchup, like right on paper, it jumped out to me. It's like, okay, Jordan Griffin is getting another guy that could potentially just out-grapple him over the course of 3 rounds like we saw in his last 3 fights. The thing with Zalal, though, is I went back and watched tape on, his LFA fights and even against Lingo. Like, he got the fight to the ground eventually, but he really struggled to get takedowns there. And he's also struggles with positional control. Like, he could get the opposition to the ground, but he doesn't he's not as good of like a top control specialist as say like Chaz Skelly was, or Dan Ige, or even TJ Brown. He took him down multiple times, but the thing was Zalal, he takes his opposition down and he could threaten from the front headlock position. So perhaps he threatens Griffin from there. But other than that, he doesn't have that same like prototype of like a Chaz Skelly or Dan Ige. I just don't think his wrestling is as good as those gentlemen. So I tend to think that this is a more favorable matchup for Griffin than those previous matchups. Even the Brown fight, he was losing before getting the submission there. But that said, it's still hard to trust Griffin because just in a lot of his fights, he just in general puts himself in a lot of bad spots. He's tough and tenacious, which I like, but it's still, I can't just ignore the fact that he just puts himself in bad spots often. Another thing that's different on the case of Zalal is he had a really pronounced speed advantage over Lingo in his debut, and he was just able to move laterally on the outside, pick his shots, stick and move. I don't think that's going to be that compelling here because Griffin is also fast and agile. So I do favor Zalal's speed slightly, but only slightly. It's not going to be as pronounced. So I tend to think that the odds are right in that it should be competitive and one that probably goes to decision. They're both tough and tenacious, and one that should be grappling heavy. So for DraftKings, I think that the winner of this fight has some upside, even if in a decision, but should be a fun fight, potential some scrambles.
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be scrambles, probably because Griffin, he basically throws himself on the ground at some point, kind of forces you to jump on top. The numbers are basically the same. Zalal, I think I just noticed James Krause is a real good striking coach, and I know he's one of his striking coaches. I really like that. He trains in Colorado. I'm thinking about putting a bet on Zalal. I like it. I like his movement that you mentioned. I think Griffin is good. I just don't know. You look at his fight versus TJ Brown, and he's resourceful on the ground. He looks for submissions. Eventually, he was able to snatch his neck, but he was dropped in the first round for the most part. He puts himself in harm's way. He strikes a little bit. He's not a great striker, in my opinion. He's resourceful on the ground, but I think Zalal is every bit as good on the ground. If either guy makes a mistake, they're probably going to get something snatched up. I think I'm going to put a bet on Zalal. I haven't done it yet, but full disclosure, I think I'm going to bet Zalal. So I agree with just about everything in your breakdown. Let's look at this next fight, and I'll tell you what, I don't have a strong take either way, so I'm going to throw this one to you, two in a row, and this is Sato and Brahimaj. So Ramiz Brahimaj and Takashi Saka. I'm killing these names tonight, but they're fighting at a catchweight, right? 170 catchweight, and the one thing that concerns me, I thought that I actually considered a bet on Sato, and when I saw that Brahimaj is trains with Fortis MMA, that scares me off of betting against anybody from Fortis at this point. So I'm pretty sure Kamaru Usman was in Sato's corner last fight. When he lost, who did he lose to? I have that written down. He lost to Bilal Muhammad. So when he lost to Bilal Muhammad, Usman was in his corner. I don't know if he's going to be there this time. I don't think he has any reason to risk getting COVID. I'm sure he's training at this point. But this is a decent fight. Striker, grappler. I just worry about Sato. I don't think he throws enough strikes for a 3-round fight. What do you think here, AJ?
Yeah, I like your point about Fortis. Bilal's training there as well. I caught the two of them take it. They had a picture on Instagram. It was Ramiz, Bilal, and Jeff Neal on the safe side, Saud, of course. And so I like that he's training with Bilal, who just beat Sato. Obviously, that narrative doesn't work all the time, but it's something that's noteworthy. I really liked the first initial footage that I saw of Ramiz. He's explosive. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's like a jiu-jitsu champion, which is really cool. And he's also he's not like an elite wrestler, but he's like a proficient takedown artist. He's explosive. He looks like a physically strong guy, and he's tenacious with the takedown. But I watched his fights that went the distance, and when he doesn't get the early submission, he tends to gas badly. I'm talking some fights he gets tired towards the end of the first round. His striking defense is a huge liability. His footwork, his movement, his just both head movement and footwork could just be much improved. And so, to your point, I tend to think that this is a striker versus grappler matchup, and Sato playing the role of the striker. I don't see why Sato would take this to the ground against a jiu-jitsu world champion, so he'll probably just look to keep the fight standing where he could win by knockout. I wouldn't put it past him. And Ramiz clearly, I think, has the advantage on the ground. He's a opportunistic guy, explosive, and just – Sato has only fought like a couple submission guys, and I'm referring to, Bilal Muhammad and Glyco França. Watch those two fights back. He could be taken down. He is good at scrambling back to his feet. So I tend to think that Ramiz needs to jump on something in transition in order to submit him. Otherwise, I just think he's going to get tired from Sato getting up over and over again. So a little side note on DraftKings, I do think this is a fight that is a GPP target for me. I tend to think the winner has a chance to finish. And at their respective prices at a potentially low ownership, I think it's an intriguing fight and one that should be fan-friendly as well.
And when you talk about, getting finished, I think that was Bilal's first finish, right, ever. I don't think he ever finished an MMA fight other than that Sato fight.
That stuck out to me. Yeah, it was Bilal's first submission victory, and Bilal is I think he's a purple or brown belt. So, yeah. Pretty crazy.
If this hits the ground, I mean, obviously, what that advantage is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got Tanner Bosser from Canadian and Felipe Lins, who was the PFL heavyweight tournament winner, and he lost to Orlovsky. And he did everything to win that fight against Orlovsky. Orlovsky just kind of beat him to the punch and outboxed him. I don't intend on seeing this fight go to the ground unless someone gets hurt and goes to the ground. But this could very easily be a decision fight. Tanner seems to really protect himself, and Felipe Lins, although I believe every fight in the PFL tournament he finished. I just see like he keeps good distance. If he can get Tanner down to the ground, I guess he'll be able to maybe have a little bit of an advantage in the submission game if he can get his back, and grapple him down. But for the most part, I mean, both guys kind of have a similar skill set on the feet. They switch hands, can attack, use good kicks, use the good low kicks, similar reach. Actually, I think Tanner has a little bit of a reach advantage. Same height, though. And again, as I was watching a fight, one of Tanner's fights, I noticed, he lost to Gane. And he hasn't fought in a while. I kind of want to see him back in the ring. But other than that, I think this is a real tough fight to pick. I didn't bet it. I don't intend on betting it. And for the most part, it's a pick'em fight, and I don't really have a strong lean. But that's what I see. I think the low kicks could play a role in this. I think if it goes to the ground, Felipe Lins has the advantage. But Tanner is tough. So, AJ, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the first things you mentioned, it's a heavyweight fight, but the odds say that it's most likely going to go to decision, and it's because they're both really durable. And both tough, durable guys. Bosser put his durability and toughness on display last bout. You mentioned Cyril Gane. I mean, Cyril Gane's probably like the worst matchup for him in the division because like basically everything Bosser does about his game, Gane is just a step ahead of him in terms of athleticism and speed and technique. So Bosser, though, I do think he's talented. He has good footwork. I really like his movement on the outside. He does a good job of not trading in the pocket, which is kind of what Lins wants you to do. I noticed in the Arlovsky fight, he waited for Arlovsky to enter boxing range, and he would just mainly throw the 3-2. He's got some pop in his hands, even though he didn't finish Arlovsky. He's shown some pop. But Lins is mainly a counter striker, where I think Bosser is like the more point fighter, just the guy that's going to be moving on the outside, pot shotting, sticking and moving, and can a finish materialize? Sure. These are big guys, it's heavyweight, but I tend to think that it most likely goes to decision, where I do think it can be competitive, though I'm going to pick Bosser to win. I just think he's got more tools in the striking. Lins does have the BJJ black belt, which is interesting, but just looking at fights of his, he doesn't really look to get the fight to the ground, which is interesting. I don't know if it was, I know he's only one fight removed since like that injury after he won the PFL tournament, but going back to even fights prior, he doesn't really initiate grappling that much. So I tend to think it should stay standing, where again, I'm going to slightly favor Bosser, but one that can be competitive.
And AJ, I got one question for you because I just saw this on FightOdds.io, and again, FightOdds.io. I partner with them, so their odds are on my website. If anybody wants to check out the website, Miranda Maverick and Barella. Did we lose that fight?
So, to my knowledge, we lost just Miranda. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if they're looking for a replacement for Barella. I've tried to been following on with the news, but I didn't see anything.
Okay.
But yeah, as of now, Miranda's out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it on the fight card, but I did tape it. So I guess we'll skip that for now. I really did like Miranda in that fight. So I guess we'll see if there's a step in. I want to throw this fight to you next. This is the Luis Pena and Kama Worthy fight. And I think everybody in MMA knows who Kama Worthy is at this point. Kind of a journeyman, has a bunch of losses and actually has been finished a bunch of times. But he came in on like 5-day notice, I believe, maybe even shorter than that. And connected on Volante Smith with a left hook. I don't know if it was the biggest underdog win this year, but I'm pretty sure Volante Smith was minus 1,000 when I rewatched the fight this morning. So with that being said, the reason I'm throwing it to you is I always feel like I'm wrong with Luis Pena fights. I feel like he should be better than he is. I feel like he has a good skill set, and I just don't see him being dominant in any area. So I don't know. He throws me off every time when I expect him to finish and he's got somebody's back. He doesn't get the submission. I was I hate to say it, I was kind of surprised against Trezano. I thought he was going to beat Trezano again as a big favorite in that fight, and he's a big favorite again here. I feel like I'm off him, so I'm interested on your take on Pena. So Luis Pena and Kama Worthy, and I'll give you the odds before we leave here. That's Pena at minus 240, and the return on Worthy is plus 200. So they're pretty big odds again for Pena. What do you think, AJ?
As you're talking, I am thinking of an example that we could compare Luis Pena to last week, and that's Bobby Greene. Because you're right, yeah, from the skill set that he's shown, he's very good. He's very well rounded. He's a long guy, and it's not just like he's good because he's long. No, he's got skills as well. He's a good athlete. He's fast. He's not known as like a power puncher typically, but he is a dynamic striker. He's got some flying knees, some cool stuff like that. Another guy that is going to just be improving. I think just going to look better each and every time we see out there, just based off his age and doing work at American Top Team. And so, yeah, you said it with Worthy. Like, he went out there and finished Smith, and it was either him or Roxanne upsetting Barber was the biggest upset. But either way, huge upset.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Worthy, I mean, I know the guy's got power, that's undeniable, but I tend to think, just based off tape study, he like the Smith fight, that's the fight that he thrives in the most. Like, if you don't get him moving and he's just kind of standing there, he'll be feinting a bunch. He does a good job of keeping a high guard. He's able to use some fast low kicks and threaten with his power, and he's fast. So if Luis Pena just wants to stand in the middle of the octagon with him and kind of bring that same fight that Smith can, Worthy can win by knockout again. I don't think that happens, though, because Pena has shown multiple times that he's fine with being the aggressor. Like, he'll my example about Greene is sometimes Pena doesn't always put his foot on the gas, and that's kind of why he's losing some competitive split decision type fights, like against Vol and Trezano. I think he also got tired against Trezano. But anyway, that if he gets Worthy, especially if he gets Worthy moving backwards, I've noticed on tape, Worthy has this tendency, and it's so weird. He like drops both of his hands and kind of just spams uppercuts. It's like so strange. Like, you would think, like, with his striking defense, like standing in the middle of the octagon, like, oh yeah, he keeps the high guard, he's slipping the punches. Oh yeah, that's great. But then when you get him moving, it's like the defensive technique just isn't there anymore. And so even though Pena isn't known as like a one punch KO guy, I do think that he could finish this fight just by getting Worthy moving backwards and just taking advantage of that striking defense. I also think he could finish Worthy on the ground, because I do tend to think that Ross is a good submission grappler. I think he's only like a blue belt, but he is like pretty good on the ground. He's very long and like kind of awkward to deal with. And I've seen Worthy. I've noted it in my premium breakdown. I've seen his back taken in one of his fights on the regional scene, and then he had his opponent's back, and then 20 seconds later, his opponent had his back. It's like something didn't go right there. And so I tend to think that Ross could capitalize on that and potentially finish the fight on the ground. Yeah, sure, Worthy could win by knockout, but I tend to think that Ross is durable enough and good enough defensively and good enough of an athlete to just avoid that and most likely win this fight by finish. So it should be a barn burner. These guys have been talking up on social media how fun the fight should be, and I tend to agree. It should be fun for as long as it lasts.
Yeah, I mean, any bets on this, you're on your own. I'm just gonna sit back and watch it. I just feel like I'm always wrong with Luis Pena, and I mean, everybody was wrong with Worthy's first fight. So anybody who bet Worthy in that spot, show your face. Let me know who you are.
Not me.
I didn't have me either. The good thing is I didn't put a minus 1,000 in any parlays, so that didn't ruin my night. But this next fight, Sean Woodson and Julian Erosa, I actually taped Kyle Nelson. I like Sean Woodson, and then when I saw the price, I was like, oh man, we're not even getting a good price here. And the minute I saw Erosa come in, I actually tweeted out, this is going to be about minus 400. And if you look at the odds right now, it is minus 400. I'm pretty sure that's the exact tweet that I have. So some odds are minus 400. Some are actually minus 455, 526, the one odds. I mean, this is Erosa's third stint in the UFC, I believe, because I know he lost 3 in a row. Actually, talking about Devontae Smith, I'm pretty sure he knocked him out. Lost 3 in a row, left the UFC, won a fight and got back in. But I think Woodson's going to be able to piece him up. It's just got to stay in his feet. The one place he can put himself in some danger is if Woodson gets taken down and Erosa's able to take his back or something like that. But as long as he stays in the feet, I think he's just going to pick Erosa apart. I like him to finish this fight, even though he didn't finish his last one. But I'm not going to touch the minus 400. I mean, if anyone wants to throw in some big parlays, this is pretty safe, especially if you can get it in the minus 300, minus 330 range, depending on what book you use. But I really like Woodson to win this fight and finish Erosa here. What do you think there, AJ?
Yeah, it's kind of like that last matchup we just talked about. Like Woodson, he even said in his post-fight interview after beating Bokniak, he's like, I'm not like a one-punch KO kind of guy, but Erosa's been finished in a lot of his losses and by guys that really aren't known for like big one-punch KO power. So even though Woodson isn't like that one-punch KO guy, I do tend to think that he could win this fight by knockout. He's just like Pena, like he's very long, but he's also skilled. I think Woodson's got like some 46-3 amateur boxing record. When I heard that, I was like, that's definitely impressive. Yeah. And the guy is like, he fights like a good boxer. He slips punches well, utilizes feints. He's got very good footwork. He's got the long reach. He could throw in combination. He's varied. He landed some 111 significant strikes in his UFC debut against Bokniak. He's got some good knees for wrestlers that don't set up their takedowns like he caught.
Very good knees up the middle.
Perfect. Yeah. And then that one he got McKinney with on the Contender Series. Yeah, McKinney didn't set up the takedown and Woodson made him pay for it after Woodson was losing the vast majority of that fight. So, he's like a guy you would think by looking at him, oh yeah, he's long and let's just take him down. But the guy's just like he's got good takedown defense. He's got a good sprawl. He's a good athlete, and McKinney had to take him down from chain wrestling. And Erosa's landed takedowns in the past, yes, but I don't think that his wrestling is going to be good enough here to really do enough to get Woodson to the ground and make it be significant. I mean, yeah, I do think that Erosa has some submission grappling for sure. He's got some submission grappling chops. I just question if he could actually get the fight to the ground. And on the feet, like you said, I mean, Woodson, just the much better striker, more durable as well. Erosa's a solid striker, but again, it's kind of that durability that has let him down sometimes. So especially with the short notice too, and Woodson is just in a spot where kind of like what we said about Hansen, just on the rise potential. And I think he comes out here and gets another win. So I like Woodson, and I think he has upside as a fighter.
Yeah, I don't. Do you remember where he trains? He had somebody in his corner that I didn't realize who his striking coach was. Do you remember by any chance?
Sean Woodson trains, according to Tapology, Wolf's Den Training Center.
He had somebody in his corner. I don't know. There was a name that they mentioned when he in his corner, and I don't remember who it was. I didn't write it down. But very good striker himself. So this next fight, AJ, is Maurice Greene and John Volante. I honestly haven't bet it. I don't have a problem with throwing Maurice Greene in a parlay. This is John Volante's debut at heavyweight. He's usually a light heavyweight, and after watching the body, I think it was a body shot, right? Like a left hook body shot that dropped him in his last fight. Um, I just feel like Maurice Greene is going to wind up hurting the body with some of those kicks. Maurice Greene, he's tall. He uses those kicks, will attack your legs, attack your midsection. And I think that Maurice Greene is going to be able to do just that against John Volante. So I see Maurice Greene finishing this fight. I don't think that John Volante at heavyweight is going to be in a good spot. I think it's going to slow him down against for the most part, Maurice Greene is pretty agile for his size and fighting at heavyweight. I think John Volante is gonna regret taking this fight. But AJ, what do you think here?
Yeah, it's to your point. It's interesting seeing Volante move up to heavyweight after this entire time fighting at light heavyweight. I know it was never an easy cut for him to get down there, but it's pretty interesting, especially considering his last few bouts in the UFC. It's been a lot of split decision type fights. He's 2-4 in his last 6 bouts, and those 2 wins were split decision. So it's it's kind of tough to I guess just kind of trust him to win in general, just based off that. And you mentioned the Olachechuk fight. Yeah, he got hit from the body shot there, and perhaps it helps his body moving up to heavyweight. But yeah, I tend to agree with Greene should be favored. I just think he has more tools on the feet. He's also a longer fighter, the gentleman who had used to fight in Glory. And, his last 2 losses, it's I know he's on a 2-fight losing streak, but it's I look at it, it's okay, he lost to Oleinik. Oleinik submitted him on the ground. We know how good Oleinik is. When he gets anybody down, he can pretty much submit him, except for Doom. And then it's Pavlovich, who is just the better striker than him and also had a reach advantage over him. So they're understandable losses to Greene. Greene, excuse me. The worry with him is he doesn't do the best job of controlling distance. He often lets guys close distance on him. I mean, even the Junior Albini fight, he let him close distance on him and even hurt him after he hurt Albini the first time, but then he rallied back. So Volante, we always know he's down for the brawl. Perhaps he catches Greene in something when they're brawling, if it happens. But other than that, it should be Greene here to win.
Speaking about Pavlik, he actually has his next fight against Gane. That's that I believe that's, what did I see it? August. I think they're fighting in August. So I said earlier that Gane, had a good fight against Tanner, right? Tanner Boser earlier. I watched that, and he's actually fighting next time. So that should be a good fight. 2 good strikers there.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
But yeah, I'm on board with what you're saying there. I haven't bet it yet. I wouldn't be surprised if I wind up throwing it in a parlay, but I'm not in love with Maurice Greene either. I just think John Volante shouldn't be fighting at heavyweight. I'm a little surprised about that. This next fight, I'm actually very interested in seeing this fight. I think Brendan Allen has come out of the chute here. Again, 24 years old, winds up upsetting Kevin Holland and totally destroyed Tom Breeze. And I was shocked by those 2 fights. Rightly so. Kudos to him. I was wrong. I was wrong on both of those fights. But I'm not picking against him again here. Brendan Allen, I'm all over Brendan Allen here. The only issue is it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you minus 300. I haven't bet it. I haven't put it in any parlay yet. But I do like Brendan Allen a lot. I don't love the price. I just don't know how much you want to risk him on the ground with somebody that can snatch up his neck or get his back. Tyle Dawkins is 9-0. He was on Contender Series. That's the fight that I watched. That's the only fight he didn't finish. He has 9 submission victories. I believe they were all submission victories. 8 submission victories, sorry. And the only decision was on Contender Series on a night where there were no finishes on that night of Contender Series. And he would have got a contract if he finished, and he didn't finish. He had the guys back. He had the guys back late in that fight. I think he's a good fighter. I think the difference here is that Allen just seems so much stronger. He was so much stronger than Tom Breeze, and was able to wrestle Holland to the ground and he works out of bad spots. I mean, Holland puts himself in bad spots on his own. Allen put him in some bad spots. Eventually, he submitted him. But this is going to be back and forth on the ground. I don't think that it's going to stay on the feet much. But AJ, what do you think here?
Yeah, I like Allen too. I thought he had a legitimate chance to beat Holland, and then I picked against him against Breeze. I thought Breeze was going to roll there, but Allen proved me wrong. He's a very talented fighter. There was a guy that LFA really promoted, was on a ton of main events. And I do believe in his talent long term. I do think he has some improvements that need to be made to like really crack the top 15 and make a run. But that said, he could still do it. He's still very young. And you said the physicality. I think that will be a difference maker here. I do think he will be more physical than Kyle on the ground, which should be important. I also think he's the better scrambler of the two as well. And then also, obviously, he's just more experienced in the UFC. So I think Kyle is talented, but I just think Allen is a bit better than him on the ground. And I also, I would favor Kyle. Like if I thought that this fight would play out on the feet, I do think he's actually the better striker. He does a really good job of controlling the lead wrist. I think he's more technical as well, but all of Allen's fights like hit the ground. It's like we were talking about Derek Minner a little bit ago. Like all of his fights literally hit the ground. He always finds it in one way, shape, or form. I mean, even the Kevin Holland fight, Holland shot a takedown on him, and it was like he almost accepted it going to the ground. Like he was just okay with even being on his back. And so, it should be Allen here. Yeah, you did mention it's a steep price. I'm picking him to win. Yeah, I mean, I expect him to go out and perform well here again. Believe in the guy's talent, but I'm excited to see the improvements he makes fight to fight. He's a fun guy to watch.
So AJ, we're at the point where I'm going to take a lot of criticism if Mickey Gall pulls the upset and takes out my buddy Mike Perry. So I think that Mike Perry's going to wind up winning this fight. He's definitely the better striker. This is striker versus grappler. And I had told you before we went live that I may have a special guest in here. So I did send the invite out to Ian Parker from Anakin Florian podcast. The minute I posted, put Mike Perry in all your parlays, he had something to say to me in DMs. So we always go back and forth with bets and who we like and things like that. He always tells me when I'm wrong. He's usually right. But and then Jimmy, your buddy Jimmy, who I don't really know, but he came at me a little bit on Twitter, so I invited him on the podcast. Obviously, he decided not to come on. I actually did tell him to his credit, I did tell him 8:00, and we jumped on a little bit earlier. But I want to let you break this one down because I feel like everybody knows I'm on Mike Perry at this point. I think it's no problem to throw him in parlays. I threw him in at minus 280. He's at minus 295 on Fight Odds right now. But what do you think, AJ? Break this down for everybody.
Yeah, you said it. We were even talking beforehand. This is just a fight where there's going to be strong opinions on both sides. I mean, it kind of makes sense too. Like even if these two weren't matched up, it makes sense because I feel like a lot of Mickey Gall fights have strong opinions both ways. I remember a lot of people in the MMA community, and this was at the very beginning of my betting career. I wasn't wise to it then, but a lot of people had bets on Diego Sanchez there as a big underdog. And people question the resume of Gall and also just stylistically, they like Diego as well. So super sharp play there. And then obviously with Mike Perry, the guy's just a treat to watch. Goes out there, fight of the night candidates with like Santiago Ponzinibbio, Alex Oliveira. The guy always brings it. Coming off a tough loss to Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal, as we know, is just a monster. Guy has a tough time fighting fights. Completely different matchup, though. Gall doesn't bring that style of striking. But, it comes down to can Gall get this fight to the ground? And I know Mickey is improving. I trust that he is. He's now a black belt as well. The thing, I've seen Perry taken down. I just tend to think that you need to be like a pretty solid wrestler to take him down. Like Santiago took him down with a double leg against the fence after they were like the vast majority of the way through their war. And he's like got good takedown defense per the numbers. He's also a good athlete as well. Even when Jake Ellenberger took him down, he scrambled up right away. So I tend to think that Gall's window for victory is narrow. He's kind of what we said about Ramir Ibrahim at the beginning. Kind of needs to take advantage of a scrambling opportunity and kind of jump on Perry's back, I think, and sink in the choke. But otherwise, the striking is just there's a vast skill difference in favor of Perry. Just much more technical, more powerful. The more like aggressive striker per the numbers. And so I tend to think that Perry will have a wide advantage here, and I think has the better cardio as well. You know, I know Gall, like I believe him when he said that he was like sick against Sanchez because he gassed earlier than he typically does, but he's also been tired in other fights, like against Randy Brown. He was noticeably tired there in between rounds 2 and 3. And then also Salim Tuhari. It was kind of like Werdum versus Volkov. Like not a lot of people talked about it because both guys were gassed and the attention wasn't on one guy, but Gall was gassed as well. His cardio looked better there, but it was still concerning. Obviously with Perry, there's some out of the octagon stuff. You know, people I'm sure have been following it along with. You know, he's got one coach in his corner, one viewer, and so we'll see how it affects him. I mean, he's been training like an animal still on Instagram from what I could tell, so I don't really expect it's going to affect him too much. But I don't really want to quantify these intangibles more than the stylistic matchup themselves. So I just think it's a good matchup for Perry, one that he should win, and we'll see how it shakes out. It's a fun fight, one that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and I'll just go through. I don't know if you know this, but I was on Diego Sanchez in that fight against Mickey Gall. I don't know if you realized this when you mentioned that earlier. But
no.
Yeah, and again, go through Mickey Gall's fights, right? Mike Jackson. Now, some people may know I did some MMA media. I had credentials. I sat across from Mike Jackson, coolest guy in the world, at a fight over in the Garden about 2 years ago. Nicest guy in the world. But he's a journalist. That was Mickey Gall's first win. Then he fought CM Punk. Mike Jackson beat CM Punk to a pulp. So those were two non-fights, in my opinion. Then you go to Sage Northcutt, and again, Sage, his career may be over with the way that he was knocked out in his last fight. And Sage had gotten better in the UFC, but there was a reason that he fought Mickey Gall. He wasn't ready, and Dana knew he wasn't ready. Randy Brown, all the fights that went a while, as you said, Tahiri, that was actually over in Newark. I covered that fight too, at the Prudential Center in Newark. Mickey Gall, again, basically just threw his body into Tahiri in round 3, and he kind of struggled to get him down in that fight. There was a lot of striking in that fight, more than I thought. George Sullivan, he got down right away near rear naked choke. Sanchez, obviously, you know, Mickey Gall thought he was going to knock out Sanchez. That didn't work out. Sanchez put him down ground and pound. And Randy Brown, I mean, although I think he had Randy Brown's back in round 2, but Randy Brown won rounds 1 and 3 pretty convincingly. And if it stayed striking, you know, Mickey didn't have much of a chance. And I think, doesn't he train with Joe Stallings? Is he still training with him? I'm not even sure. But
yeah, like Joe Schilling and those guys.
Schilling, sorry, not Stallings. Joe Schilling. Yeah.
No, yeah, I knew you meant. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, he works with them.
Yeah, I screw up names all the time. I get criticized for that too. But
it's all good.
I think that he's going to have a tough time bringing Mickey Gall down. Mickey Gall's going to have a tough time bringing Mike Perry down. I think Mike Perry's going to get to him. I think he's going to finish him. When Mickey Gall gets tired and his hands drop, you don't want to drop your hands against a guy like Mike Perry, man. He's gonna hurt you, and I think he's going to finish you. So again, Mickey Gall, I don't think if he's going to win, he's going to have to sub him, and I think it's going to be first round sub. So if you're going to bet Mickey Gall, bet him first round sub. If it goes into round 2, I just don't see it happening. Mike Perry with the elbows, he likes to use his elbows, in tight. I think he's going to be able to finish Mickey Gall, and I also do like inside the distance. I don't think this is going, to the scorecards. And AJ, I'm going to tell you what I did in this main event, and then I'll let you do the breakdown. So I'm just going to tell everybody what I bet. So I had $100 in free bets on FanDuel. All right. Basically, I lost. I had a sign-up bonus, a deposit bonus, and I lost a bet that I was able to get a free bet. So I had $100 in free bets. So I was looking at golf and didn't really like anybody at long odds. I wanted something that were long odds. So then I looked at the Poirier Hooker fight and started doing my tape study. And I think that Poirier is going to win the fight. But I said, if I pick something for Hooker, what's going to happen? And I went back to 2 fights. I think Daniel Hooker, if we're talking about path to victory, all right, how is he going to win this fight? His path to victory is to attack Poirier's legs. use the kicks, use the low kicks, and I'll give you the stats because, again, I really did back this bet up with some stats. I was at the gym, UFC 208. My buddy Waldo was watching this. He's talking shit to me on the side here. We were at the fight, Poirier and Jim Miller. Jim Miller hit him with so many leg kicks. And we thought from, in the stands. I wasn't covering this as a journalist. I was in the stands. This was over in Brooklyn. We thought that he got hit with so many leg kicks. He only got hit with 15 leg kicks. Jim Miller was 15 of 17 on leg kicks. Poirier had to sit on the stool after the fight. He couldn't even stand anymore. If you go to the next fight where he was really peppered with leg kicks, it was the Justin Gaethje fight. And I know Justin Gaethje has a different type of power in his leg kicks, but he hit Poirier with 50 of 57 leg kicks. And again, if you remember the end of round 3 there, at the end of round 3 against Jim Miller, he couldn't stand up. The end of round 3 against Justin Gaethje, he couldn't stand up. He sat down, got up off the stool, and wound up knocking out Justin Gaethje in round 4. I have no idea how that happened. He had no business coming back and winning that fight. I think Gaethje thought that his legs were that beat up, that there was no way that he was gonna. Gaethje came out of round 4 and thought, I'm gonna finish this fight, and then Poirier come out and knocked him out. I think that Dan Hooker needs to use his reach, his leg reach, attack those lower legs. And if you watch Poirier again, he's southpaw. He's got to attack that right leg. That front lead right leg is there to be kicked early and often. Inside, outside, however you got to do it. You need to disable that leg, and you can win this fight in rounds 3 or 4. So I put $50 on Daniel Hooker by KO, TKO to win in round 3. And I put $50 on Dan Hooker, KO, TKO round 4, which will pay off, I think it's $1,300 for round 3 and 15 something for round 4. So that's my breakdown with my bet. Although I think Dustin Poirier is going to win the fight, I just had to let you know I did a lot of tape study to get to that bet, and I'm still betting against myself. So, AJ, what do you think here?
Yeah, you said it. Hooker needs to win this fight by just basically doing damage at distance. Yeah, the leg kicks, the straight punches. And if he could keep Poirier at that range that he's best at, he should win. I mean, I just think that Hooker's got the more tools to use at range. The thing, though, that I noticed with, Poirier doesn't check leg kicks, which, again, that's something that's clear for Hooker. But one thing I liked about Poirier in that Gaethje fight was every time Gaethje hit him with a leg kick, he more often than not responded with a left counter right away. And it wasn't until you said round 3. It wasn't until round 3 where Gaethje kind of held back a little bit on the kicks because, again, Poirier just kept making him pay with the counter. I believe it was his straight left. And so even though Dan is long and tall, and so that in theory might mean that Poirier has a little bit more difficulty hitting him. But at the same time with Hooker, his striking defense, if you could get up close to him boxing wise, is a liability. Hands are low. Does not utilize proper head movement, and he's been tagged excessively. And he's so tough and durable that I'm not expecting Poirier to just hit him with one punch and that's it. But I'm just more so worried about the damage that he could take here, because I do think that Poirier will get the better of those boxing exchanges. The wrestling could be there, but I don't think it's going to be that strong for Poirier. He can maybe mix in a couple, but Dan's pretty solid defensively, grappling wise. And so, I mean, I could see it playing out. I could see it going to decision. I mean, both guys are really tough, but Dan could certainly win it inside the distance. Poirier's been finished more times. Dan was able to hurt a very durable Iaquinta. That was the only time I recall Iaquinta being knocked down, maybe the Masvidal fight. So Hooker certainly got power. He's technical enough of a striker where I wouldn't put it past him to finish Poirier. But I tend to favor Poirier just due to the fact that I think he will get more work done inside, kind of like Felder did, but earlier on in the fight. And I just think the resumes, I know Hooker's got good wins, no doubt about it. I mean, Iaquinta and Felder, that's very good. But I tend to favor Poirier. Holloway, Alvarez, and Gaethje just does it a little bit more for me. So hope your bet cashes. It's a fun main event. I think the winner of this fight will get Ferguson. So it certainly got some implications here, and I'm just really excited to tune in for it.
Yeah, and again, I'll put the odds up there just if anyone likes it. I actually bet Hooker by KO TKO round 3. I'm sure it's basically around the same thing. It's not up here on the website on fightodds.io. And where is it? Hooker wins in round 4 plus 1650. So I took it KO TKO round 4 and KO TKO round 3. So I got a little bit better odds than that. But yeah, it should be a fun main event. It's a decent card. Hopefully, I guess we lost. You had mentioned earlier we lost Maverick from that fight, so we still have Barella, possibly.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, with how the UFC has been racking up these opponents such short notice, I'm not going to put it past them to get somebody in there, But that's it as of now that I could tell.
But by the same token, it's their opportunity, right? Like these people have the opportunity to get in the UFC, short notice, take a fight. It's Barella. I mean, you could, if someone's in that weight class, she's not a barn burner. You can beat Barella. So you have a legit shot at a win, and then you get a contract. You know what I mean? You're obviously making more money in the UFC. So yeah, somebody's got to step up and take that challenge. But I think it's worth it. AJ, real quick, everybody can see your Twitter handle. What content are you putting out this week? I know you mentioned premium earlier. Podcast, write-ups. Where's your stuff at? How many bets do you have live so far?
Live, I've got 3 for this upcoming card. Pertains to the premium content. Yeah, my full in-depth breakdown of the entire card, that's 2 hours long audio, is already sent out to all paying subscribers. And then I also have all my notes that I took. People that subscribe to my services get all the notes for all the fighters that I've taken a lot of time to tape study to save them time and not have to do that on their own. So they get access to that, the audio breakdown, my DraftKings thoughts, and my bets. And so if they're interested, or if they even have questions, they could DM me. Otherwise, if you're already sold, you could purchase my content on my website, AJ's actionpacksportsbets.com. It's in my Twitter bio. The subscription length varies. It just depends on what your preference is. If you're not sure, again, happy to help you out. Also on MMA Oddsbreaker. As far as free content goes, yeah, I sent you the main event audio breakdown, which is going to be posted later on, I would assume. And that's also posted on MMA Oddsbreaker. So if people want like free content of mine and like want like a fairly in-depth breakdown of this Saturday's main event, that could be found on Oddsbreaker. I could also send it to them via email. So there's a few different ways to do it. And as we talked about last time, helping you contribute to your site. So that should be posted there whenever you would have it there. And so, yeah, easy to reach, easy to follow, and happy to be doing this again with you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put it up later on today. I was at work all day today, so I'll put it up later on today after I get my son to sleep. So, AJ, appreciate it again. Good luck this week, and everybody else. If you tail him, by all means, good luck this week. Mickey Gall and Mike Perry is the fight that is going to make or break my week, because I'm going to get so much slack if Mike Perry doesn't come through with his girlfriend in the corner.